You open your eyes and smell roasted lamb mixed with bitter herbs. You're lying on a straw mat in a simple room, the limestone walls lit by the golden glow of an oil lamp. Through the narrow window, you see a city that seems to float over hills, a maze of white stone houses, and in the distance, dominating everything, an immense temple with gold-plated walls, gleaming under the afternoon sun as if made of fire. You stand up, dizzy, and realize you're wearing a rough linen tunic. Your feet are bare on the dirt floor. You walk out to an inner courtyard and see people preparing something with urgency. A man passes by carrying branches of hyssop. A woman kneads unleavened bread. And then you understand. The lamb, the unleavened bread, the bitter herbs. It's the preparation for Passover. You stop one of the men and ask the date. He looks at you as if it were obvious. It's the 14th day of Nisan, Thursday. And then he adds, almost casually, that tonight the rabbi from Galilee is going to celebrate Passover with his disciples in an upper room not far from here. Your heart stops. The rabbi from Galilee, Jesus of Nazareth, the 14th of Nisan. You're in Jerusalem in the year 33 AD. And in less than 24 hours, the man whom billions of people will call Savior will be nailed to a Roman cross on top of a hill called Golgotha. You know exactly what's going to happen. Tonight, around midnight, Judas Iscariot will lead temple guards to the Garden of Gethsemane. He will identify Jesus with a kiss. Jesus will be arrested, dragged from trial to trial through the night, condemned for blasphemy by the Sanhedrin, handed over to the Romans at dawn, and sentenced to death by Pontius Pilate. Before noon tomorrow, he will be nailed to the cross. By 3 in the afternoon, he will be dead. The question is not whether you would try to stop it. The question is far more disturbing. If you prevent the crucifixion, you change the course of all human history. 2,000 years of Christianity simply wouldn't exist. Billions of lives would be completely different. But if you do nothing, you stand by with arms crossed while an innocent man is tortured and executed. Because in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you that waking up on the eve of the crucifixion with knowledge of the future is not a superpower. It's the most impossible moral dilemma a human being could ever face. And the line between saving a life and destroying the hope of billions is thinner than you imagine. Get ready, because this journey to the heart of sacred history will teach you that sometimes knowledge of the future is not a blessing. It's a curse. It's 4 in the afternoon on Thursday, 23 hours until the crucifixion. First, you assess your situation. Jerusalem in the year 33 is a city under Roman occupation. The normal population is around 80,000 inhabitants, but during Passover, the city swells to between 300,000 and 500,000 people. Pilgrims from all over the Jewish diaspora have come to celebrate the liberation from Egypt. The streets are packed. The tension is palpable. The Romans know this. That's why Pontius Pilate, who normally resides in Caesarea Maritima, has come to Jerusalem with military reinforcements. He has between 3, 0 and 6 auxiliary soldiers under his command. Any disturbance will be crushed without mercy. And here's your first enormous problem. You have no credibility. You're a stranger with no documents, no known family, no social standing. In a society as stratified as first-century Judea, that makes you a nobody. Worse still, if you speak of future events with too much precision, you'll be considered a madman, someone possessed by demons or a false prophet. But there's something in your favor. You speak Aramaic fluently, the common language of the region. You can communicate, and you know the exact details of what's going to happen. It's 5 in the afternoon, 22 hours to go. You decide your best option is to warn Jesus directly. If he knows that Judas is going to betray him tonight, maybe he can avoid the arrest. You ask about the upper room where the supper will be held, and after much insisting, someone points you to a house in the upper city. You arrive at the door, and a man blocks your way. The disciples are already inside, preparing the meal. You ask to speak with the rabbi. The man looks at you with suspicion. Who are you? What do you want with the master? You tell him you have urgent information, that Jesus' life is in danger this very night. The man frowns. There are always threats against the master. The Pharisees hate him. The Sadducees despise him. Herod wants to see him. That's nothing new, you insist. Tonight will be different. One of his own disciples is going to hand him over to the temple guards, Judas Iscariot. The man laughs. Judas? He's the treasurer of the group. He's been with the master from the beginning. Who are you to accuse one of the 12? And here's the obstacle you hadn't considered. Judas doesn't have a bad reputation among the disciples. According to historical accounts, when Jesus announced during the Last Supper that one of them would betray him, no one pointed at Judas. Each one asked, "Is it I, Lord?" Judas was trusted. "Your accusation sounds absurd. It's 6 in the evening, 21 hours to go. The Passover meal begins at sunset. You manage to convince the guardian to deliver a message to Jesus. You write on a piece of cloth, with ink they lend you, a warning. Tonight you will be arrested in Gethsemane. Judas will betray you. Flee before midnight. The message is delivered. You wait. Half an hour later, the guardian returns. He says the rabbi read the message, smiled sadly, and replied, "The Son of Man goes as it is written of him. Tell the stranger to pray for me." Your heart sinks, and here you face the most devastating reality of all. According to the gospel accounts, Jesus knew what was going to happen. He predicted his own death multiple times. In the Garden of Gethsemane, he prayed asking that the cup pass from him, but he accepted the Father's will. Jesus was not surprised by Judas's betrayal. He expected it. You can't warn someone who already knows. You can't save someone who has chosen not to be saved. It's 8 in the evening, 19 hours to go. You change strategy. If you can't convince Jesus, maybe you can stop Judas. According to historical records, Judas had already agreed with the chief priests to hand over Jesus for 30 pieces of silver, the price of a slave according to the law of Moses. Tonight, during the meal, Judas will leave the upper room and lead the guards to Gethsemane. You wait in the shadows near the house. Around 10 at night, you see a man leave alone. From the description you've been able to gather, you believe it's Judas. You follow him. He heads toward the house of Caiaphas, the high priest. The compound is well lit and guarded. There's unusual movement for this hour. The priests are awake, waiting. You intercept Judas before he arrives. Stop. What you're about to do will condemn your soul forever. Judas is startled. He looks at you with a mixture of fear and hostility. Who are you? How do you know where I'm going? You tell him you know about the 30 pieces of silver, that you know he plans to hand over his master tonight, that tomorrow, when he sees what he has caused, he will regret it so deeply that he will take his own life. Judas turns pale. For a moment you see doubt in his eyes, but then his expression hardens. The master speaks of a kingdom that never comes. He speaks of peace while the Romans crush us. He speaks of love while our people suffer. If he's really the Messiah, let him prove it. If they arrest him and he destroys his enemies with divine power, then I'll know he is who he says he is. And if he's not, then Israel needs a true liberator, not a preacher of parables. And here you understand something terrible. Judas doesn't believe he's sending Jesus to his death. Some historians have theorized that Judas hoped to force Jesus' hand, to make him reveal his messianic power, to start the revolution against Rome. Judas isn't simply a greedy traitor. He's a desperate man who has lost faith in his master's path and is trying to force a different outcome. You can't reason with someone whose logic starts from completely different premises than yours. Judas pushes you aside and continues toward the house of Caiaphas. It's 11 at night, 16 hours to go. You consider desperate options. Could you physically incapacitate Judas? Tie him up, lock him away, prevent him from leading the guards. But the temple guards already know that Jesus will be in Gethsemane. That was known information. Jesus went frequently to that garden with his disciples. Without Judas, maybe the guards will be confused about which of the men is Jesus in the darkness, but eventually they'll find him. And there's another problem. If you attack Judas, you'll be arrested for assault. At best, you'll end up in a cell. At worst, you'll be summarily executed for disturbing the order during the sacred festival. You decide to go to Gethsemane and warn the disciples directly. It's midnight. 15 hours to go. You arrive at the Garden of Gethsemane on the slopes of the Mount of Olives, just as Jesus and the 11 are entering. You can see the torches of the arrest party forming in the distance on the other side of the Kidron Valley. You have maybe 30 minutes. You run up to Peter, the most impulsive of the disciples. You have to leave now. The temple guards are coming to arrest your master. Peter looks at you with tired eyes. Who are you? That doesn't matter. What matters is that in less than an hour, Judas will arrive with soldiers and temple guards. They'll arrest Jesus. They'll take him before Caiaphas, then before Pilate. Tomorrow, he'll be crucified. Peter pulls out a sword he had hidden. Then we'll fight. No, you don't understand. There are too many of them, and Jesus doesn't want you to fight. Peter frowns. The master will decide that. And here's the brutal truth. You can't move people who don't want to be moved. The disciples have followed Jesus for 3 years. They've seen miracles. They believe he's the Messiah. And the Messiah, according to their understanding, cannot be defeated. If Jesus says he's staying, they stay. Jesus has gone apart to pray. You can see him in the distance, kneeling under an olive tree, his silhouette lit by the moon. The 3 disciples who accompany him, Peter, James, and John, are sitting nearby, fighting against sleep. You approach as close as you dare. And then something happens that changes everything. Jesus looks up. He looks directly at you. And although there's been no introduction, although you're a complete stranger, his eyes tell you that he knows exactly who you are and why you're here. He gestures for you to come closer. You kneel before him. Up close, you can see the sweat on his forehead, thick, mixed with something darker. Modern doctors call this hematidrosis, a rare condition where extreme anxiety causes blood vessels near the sweat glands to rupture. Jesus is sweating blood. The terror of what's coming is real, physical, visible. He speaks first. You've come from very far away to warn me. Lord, I know what's going to happen. Tonight, tomorrow. Everything. I can help you escape. Jesus shakes his head with infinite sadness. Do you think I cannot ask the Father and he would send me right now more than 12 legions of angels? But then, how would the scriptures be fulfilled that say it must happen this way? And then you understand. For Jesus, this is not an accident. It's not a tragedy that can be avoided. It's the purpose. In the Christian theology that will develop from these events, the crucifixion is the central salvific act of human history. The Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world must be sacrificed. The cup of suffering must be drunk. If you prevent the crucifixion, you prevent the resurrection. You prevent Christianity. You prevent 2,000 years of history, culture, art, philosophy, hope. Jesus takes your hand. But you can do something for me. Anything, Lord. Stay. Be a witness. And when it's all over, tell what you saw. It's 1 a.m. on Friday. 14 hours to go. The torches appear among the olive trees. Judas in front, followed by a crowd armed with swords and clubs, sent by the chief priests and elders. Jesus wakes his sleeping disciples. Get up. The one who betrays me is coming. What follows is exactly as you've read it, as you've seen it in movies, but now you witness it in flesh and blood. Judas approaches. Rabbi, he greets, and kisses Jesus on the cheek. It's the agreed signal. Jesus responds with words that pierce the night. Friend, is this why you've come? Do you betray the Son of Man with a kiss? The guards advance. Peter draws his sword and cuts off the ear of Malchus, servant of the high priest. Jesus stops him, touches the man's ear, and heals it. And then Jesus says something that will be engraved in your memory forever. Do you think I cannot ask my Father, and he would send me right now more than 12 legions of angels? But how then would the scriptures be fulfilled that say it must happen this way? They bind him, they take him away. The disciples flee into the darkness, terrified. You stay as you promised. You follow the crowd at a distance. It's 2 in the morning, 13 hours to go. Jesus is taken first before Annas, the father-in-law of Caiaphas, who was high priest previously and still wields considerable influence. Then he's transferred to the house of Caiaphas, where the Sanhedrin has assembled in emergency session. This is irregular. Capital trials shouldn't be held at night. They shouldn't be held on the eve of festivals. The Sanhedrin is violating its own rules to speed up the process. False witnesses come forward, but their testimonies contradict each other. Finally, Caiaphas loses patience. Are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed One? Jesus answers, I am. And you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven. Caiaphas tears his robes. He has blasphemed. What further need do we have of witnesses? The verdict is unanimous. He deserves death. But there's a legal problem. Under Roman occupation, the Sanhedrin has no authority to carry out death sentences. Only the Roman governor can order an execution. They need Pilate. It's 6 in the morning, 9 hours to go. Dawn arrives cold over Jerusalem. Jesus, who has been beaten and spat upon throughout the night, is taken to the Praetorium, Pilate's temporary residence. You follow him among the crowd beginning to gather. Jerusalem is waking up to the drama unfolding at its center. Pilate comes out to meet the accusers. The priests don't enter the Praetorium because that would ritually contaminate them and prevent them from eating the Passover. The irony is crushing. They worry about ritual purity while conspiring to murder an innocent man. Pilate interrogates Jesus privately. According to the accounts, he finds no crime deserving death. He tries to release him. Do you want me to release the King of the Jews? The crowd, stirred up by the priests, shouts, Barabbas! Release Barabbas to us. Barabbas is a zealot, a rebel who committed murder during an insurrection. The crowd prefers a murderer over Jesus. Pilate tries another maneuver. He orders Jesus to be flogged, hoping that will satisfy the crowd. It's 7 in the morning, 8 hours to go. Roman flagellation is one of the most brutal tortures ever invented. The flagrum, a whip of multiple leather straps with metal balls and bone fragments at the ends, is designed to tear flesh. There's no legal limit to the number of blows the Romans can inflict. They tie Jesus to a post. 2 soldiers, 1 on each side, alternate blows. Each impact tears strips of skin, then muscle. Jesus' back becomes a bloody mass. Later, witnesses would describe flagellation victims with internal organs exposed. Jesus survives, but barely. The blood loss is severe. Hypovolemic shock is setting in. The soldiers, for additional entertainment, weave a crown of thorns and press it into his head. They put a purple robe of mockery on him. They strike him with reeds while mocking, Hail, King of the Jews! Pilate presents Jesus to the crowd. Ecce homo, he says in Latin. Behold the man. He hopes the sight of this destroyed man will awaken compassion. The crowd shouts, Crucify him! Crucify him! Pilate makes one last attempt. Shall I crucify your king? The priests respond with words that seal the fate. We have no king but Caesar. It's the definitive declaration. They have rejected their Messiah in favor of the pagan emperor. Pilate washes his hands publicly. I am not responsible for this man's blood, he declares. The crowd accepts responsibility. Let his blood be on us and on our children. It's 9 in the morning, 6 hours to go. Jesus is forced to carry the patibulum, the horizontal crossbeam of the cross, through the streets of Jerusalem to Golgotha, the hill of the skull, outside the city walls. The vertical post is already planted there, waiting. Weakened by the flagellation, Jesus falls multiple times. The soldiers force a bystander. "Simon of Cyrene, to carry the cross the rest of the way, you follow. As you promised, you are a witness." The women of Jerusalem weep along the way. Jesus tells them, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me. Weep for yourselves and for your children." It's a prophecy of the destruction to come. In the year 70, the Romans will raze Jerusalem. The temple will be destroyed. The people will be scattered. It's noon, 3 hours to go. At Golgotha, the soldiers offer Jesus wine mixed with myrrh, a primitive anesthetic. He refuses it. He wants to be conscious. They lay him on the cross. They drive iron nails about 5 inches long through his wrists and feet. The pain is unimaginable. The nails pierce nerves, sending waves of agony with every movement. The cross is raised and set into its hole. Jesus hangs between 2 criminals, one on each side. Above his head, Pilate has ordered a sign placed in 3 languages, Hebrew, Latin, and Greek: "Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews." The priests protest. Pilate responds, "What I have written, I have written." The crowd mocks. He saved others, but he can't save himself. "Let him come down from the cross, and we will believe in him." One of the criminals crucified beside him joins the mockery. The other defends him and asks, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus responds, "Today you will be with me in paradise." Even now, dying in agony, he offers salvation. It's noon. And then something inexplicable happens. Darkness falls over the land. It's not an eclipse. It's not a storm. It's a supernatural darkness that lasts 3 hours. In the middle of the day, Jerusalem is plunged into shadows. You tremble. You hadn't anticipated this. You knew the events, but not the atmosphere. The air feels thick, charged with something you cannot name. It's 3 in the afternoon. Jesus cries out with a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani?" My God, why have you forsaken me?" It's the beginning of Psalm 22, written 1,000 years earlier, which describes in prophetic detail exactly what is happening at this moment. "Then I thirst." They hold up a sponge soaked in vinegar to his lips, and finally, with one last cry, "It is finished. Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." His head drops. Jesus of Nazareth is dead. And at that instant, the earth shakes. The rocks split. The veil of the temple, a curtain 60 feet high that separated the holy place from the most holy place, tears from top to bottom. The Roman centurion supervising the execution, who has seen countless crucifixions, says something that will be recorded for eternity. Truly, this was the Son of God. It's 4 in the afternoon. To hasten death and allow the bodies to be taken down before the Sabbath, the soldiers break the legs of the 2 criminals. But when they come to Jesus, he's already dead. Instead of breaking his legs, a soldier pierces his side with a spear. Blood and water come out, a sign that the heart has already stopped beating. Joseph of Arimathea, a member of the Sanhedrin who secretly followed Jesus, asks Pilate for the body. With help from Nicodemus, they wrap the body in linen cloths with aromatic spices and place it in a new tomb carved in rock. A heavy stone is rolled over the entrance. You have witnessed everything. And now, as the sun sets over Jerusalem, you wonder what meaning all this has. You couldn't prevent the crucifixion, not because you lacked knowledge, but because it wasn't something meant to be prevented, at least not according to Jesus himself. In the days that follow, you'll witness something more. The women who go to the tomb Sunday morning will find it empty. Jesus will appear to his disciples. Thomas will touch his wounds. For 40 days, hundreds of people will see him alive. And then, at Pentecost, something will begin that will change the world forever. Your role in all of this was that of a witness, and perhaps that was the only possible role. Because the final lesson of this experience is the hardest to accept. There are events that are not meant to be stopped. There are sufferings that are part of a greater plan we cannot comprehend. And sometimes the only thing we can do is be present, observe, and then tell what we saw. The disciples fled that night in Gethsemane. Peter denied knowing Jesus 3 times before dawn. But you stayed. You saw the flagellation, the mockery, the cross, the death, the tomb. And now you carry that weight. The weight of having witnessed the central moment of human history and not having been able to change it. But you also carry something else. The certainty of what comes after, the empty tomb, the risen one, the hope that will be born from this darkness, because if the crucifixion had been prevented, the resurrection would never have happened. And without the resurrection, as Paul would write decades later, faith would be in vain. Knowledge of the future showed you something you didn't expect. Sometimes salvation comes through suffering. Sometimes life comes through death. And sometimes the greatest act of faith is allowing what must happen to happen, even when every fiber of your being wants to stop it. You, time traveler, learned the most paradoxical lesson of all. You weren't sent to change history. You were sent to understand it. And now, 2,000 years later, every time someone looks at a cross, they're looking at what you witnessed. The moment where, according to the Christian faith, God's love met humanity's sin, and love won, not through power, not through force, but through the voluntary sacrifice of a man who could have called 12 legions of angels, but chose not to, because that was the plan from the beginning, and you were there to see it. Would you have the courage to wake up in Jerusalem knowing what was going to happen? Would you try to change history? Or would you simply be a witness? Leave it in the comments. And if this video made you reflect on the weight of knowledge and the mystery of sacrifice, leave your like and subscribe to the channel. Until the next video,